Well, Meatsims, this all started with me missing out on a single $40 NES game on Facebook, and somehow it ended with me buying some heavy hitters and well over 100 NES games. I spotted a clean copy of Whomp Em for NES on Facebook Marketplace for a pretty good price, but by the time I clicked on it, it was gone. Before I moved on, I decided to follow the seller just in case he posted more stuff later on. A technique passed down the Armstrong line for generations. A few weeks later, the same guy made two posts. S.C.A.T, Special Cybernetic Attack Team, and RoboCop 3 for $145 total, which was a pretty solid deal, I thought at least. I messaged him right away with my go-to game pickup line, and we met at a local gas station to make the trade. The games were pretty clean, authentic, at least. Looked pretty good, just as good as his photos. Also cool that the guy was super nice and friendly, even through my frantic banter and my rantings. While we were talking, I did mention that I was trying to collect all 677 US released NES games, and he said he had a fairly big collection and might start parting it out someday. We both ended up saying peace and went our separate ways. Just a perfectly normal internet swap with a few games I was happy to make my way home with. Then a few weeks later, he posted something that made my heart f***ing drop. He listed Earthbound for Super Nintendo for $150. I messaged him in under like 5 minutes of posting and was like, hey, why are you selling it so cheap? And I'll buy it if it's real. At first he didn't realize it was a typo, and then once he did, he was laughing about it, and he sent me a message and he said he meant to make it $250, and he already did in another group on Facebook, but would hold it for me if I wanted it, which was really cool. It took me about 20 seconds to decide, but I also felt like I should grab a few more since he sent me a small list of games he was now willing to part with, since he realized he could sell some of his stuff when he sold Whomp Em and then the other two games to me. Then I started negotiations with him. So how about 1K cash for Earthbound, Chrono Trigger, Mighty Final Fight, Snow Bros, Shatterhand, Power Blade, Toxic Crusaders, and Bigfoot? And he said, that sounds good. He also said, pick out two more in the $10 range you need, and I'll throw them in. Shit. Okay. So I looked through, and I went with Dash Galaxy and Castle Quest because I don't have them, and I never heard of either one of them. So I met him again at the same gas station to pick it all up, and he was pretty patient and willing to let me inspect everything until I was certain that I wanted it, and he even brought me some extra manuals and whatnot, just because he's a pretty awesome dude. Once again, we parted ways, and I was over the f***ing moon to be driving home with these games in the passenger seat. But a few days later, after that, I got a message from him that also completely f***ing blew my mind. He said someone had offered him a ton of money for his whole collection, which was a lot more than just NES games, and he decided to take the offer. For a number I'm not going to disclose here. I told him that I couldn't compete with what they were offering, but if he was willing to sell some NES stuff separately, I would love to grab whatever I was missing if I could. Here we go! And of course, being the chill guy he is, he sent me a full price charting export of all his NES games. It was a huge list of over 200 titles, so I pulled up my own list, and I cross-referenced everything, and I ended up finding 101 games that I didn't have, and I also wanted, he had a few other kick-ass things. Official NES controllers in the box, which I hadn't seen before. The NES Max controller, also the NES Satellite, all in very clean condition. All very nice. And he also threw in a Game Genie, which I didn't have, which was really freaking awesome of him. Of course, I should have bought his Power Glove and his Complete in Box Super Scope that he had. That was pretty dumb of me not to do that. But anyway, I sent him a list of what I wanted, and he said he'd start boxing all of it up. And then he also said that he would be giving me 30% off on everything. And he was rounding the entire total down to $1,100 flat. He threw in manuals and booklets and a RoboCop 3 poster thing and a stack of just random Nintendo memorabilia for free. Not a bad trade-off for following a random seller one day on a whim. And this time he even gave me his address and was kind enough to let me into his home. That's the kind of rapport you build up with people after a while. They begin to trust you, He already had everything set aside and ready to go. I counted the carts and I handed him the cash. And literally, just like that, my collection went from 230 games to almost 350. Pretty much halfway to the full US set. Yes! We ended up talking for a little bit just about collecting and the thrill of the hunt and whatnot. before we shook hands and parted ways, because the ring was starting to come down and I was eager to get home and fire up the old Nintendo. So between the S.C.A.T and the RoboCop pickup and the massive like Earthbound Chrono Trigger deal and the 101 NES games I have back here, I've spent just over $2,000 with this one guy, and I'm pretty sure both of us came out pretty happy about it. I also bought like 15 Sega Master System games while I was there. Maybe I'll show that off somewhere. And he's still got a bit more stuff, including a couple of these beautifully restored official Donkey Kong cabinets, and I'm seriously thinking about buying for the bar if he decides to part with them, and I can convince my father to let me put them somewhere. So yeah, one missed Whomp Em led to S.C.A.T, which led to Earthbound, which led to 101 NES games, and quite a few heavy hitters knocked off my list here. And as usual with my game purchases, I'll be revealing all of the 101 games from this deal in the next video, and prices and running totals. So if you like this type of thing, subscribe, give us a shout. Let me know if you got any of these games or want to see any other crazy collection video type things. Maybe even some playthroughs of these. Until next time, Meatsims, catch you on the flip.